As Yellow Vest protests in France entered their 13th week, thousands marched on the streets of Paris and other major cities in France. Clashes between police forces and protesters turned violent as a large crowd led an arson attack home of the head of France's National Assembly. Police used tear gas and riot ammunition to disperse protesters who were hurling projectiles. The Interior Ministry has said that there were over 51,000 protesters who joined the protests across France. A Yellow Vest protester in Paris lost his hand as clashes turned violent at the Parliament building in the French capital. The man is said to be a photographer and was injured when a rubber pellet grenade exploded in his hand. The incident happened as he attempted to capture images of people pushing down barriers but was hit by a sting ball grenade in the calf. The grenade then exploded as he tried to bat it away with his hand. Eyewitnesses said that the man lost all his fingers and did not have much above the wrist. Hundreds of people took to the streets of Rome to participate in pro-growth protests. The rallies led by Italian unions urged the populist government to initiate more growth policies. It was the biggest such protest in 4 years. The protests were largely peaceful as the demonstrators holding banners with slogans such as "A future for work" marched through the city streets. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro continues to remain defiant as a blockade at the border with Colombia continues. The border blockade continues to be manned by Venezuelan soldiers and is blocking humanitarian aid from entering the country. President Nicolas Maduro has earlier criticized the US-backed humanitarian aid that is being stockpiled in the Colombian border city for his country, saying Venezuelans are not beggars. US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will hold their second summit in Hanoi in February. The talks will be held over 2 days and will focus on persuading North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons program. Donald Trump said on Twitter, "My representatives have just left North Korea after a very productive meeting and agreed upon time and date for the second summit with Kim Jong-un. It will take place in Hanoi, Vietnam on the 27th of February and 28th of February. Kim Jong-un celebrated the founding anniversary of North Korea's army with their military meeting and concert. In the video aired by North Korea's state-run television, Kim was seen visiting the Ministry of People's Armed Forces and making speech marking the 71st anniversary of Korean People's Army. Hundreds of Americans braved freezing temperatures in Massachusetts for an expected announcement by Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is officially set to kick off her 2020 White House run. The Massachusetts senator, who announced her intention to run on New Year's Eve, is among the highest profile of the growing pool of Democrats hoping to unseat President Donald Trump in 2020.
So, in the 12 years that I've known Joe Kennedy, I've watched.
Virginia's embattled Governor Ralph Northam has vowed to stay in office after a racism scandal rocked his position. Controversy emerged around 59-year-old Northam after a racist photograph of him emerged 10 days ago. The photo from his high school days shows Northam having darkened his face to imitate a black performer. The practice that is widely considered to be racist. Northam has now said that he wants to heal that pain of racial inequality and will not resign. Palestinians took to the streets for the funeral of a 14-year-old boy who was fatally shot by Israeli forces during weekly Gaza border clashes on Friday. The boy was identified as Hassan Shalabi by Gaza's health ministry. Israel's ministry said it had opened fire in response to explosives and rocks hurled at the border fence. Gaza health officials said an 18-year-old was also shot dead during the protests. Europe's largest asylum centre in Italy is preparing to shut down following a legislation passed by the Italian government to stop housing all asylum seekers. At least 50 migrants have been transferred to smaller structures over the past few days. The facilities over 1,000 migrants, most of whom have arrived illegally in the country by boat, will now be moved to different structures across Italy. In a bid to share the load of migrants arriving on Europe's shores, mayors from Spanish and Italian cities met in Rome. The meeting was to establish support mechanisms and share information about the arrival of migrants. It was also to push for an organization like Open Arms to be allowed to continue rescuing migrants in the Mediterranean Sea. Haitian President Jovenel Moise reaffirmed his presidency amidst violent protests against his government over a corruption scandal. Haiti has been on the boil for weeks as anti-government protests in the country turned violent, with citizens facing off with police forces. Many are demanding the resignation of the government over suspected corruption and allegations of embezzlement of funds of a Venezuelan-sponsored oil program. Nigerian President Buhari and his All Progressive Congress Party held a rally in the heart of Lagos ahead of next week's presidential election. The election that is scheduled to take place on the 16th of February pits Buhari against former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. The election will determine who will lead Africa's biggest crude oil producer and the continent's most populous country. Both the front-runner candidates have run for president 9 times between them. A former Miss Costa Rica beauty queen has filed a formal complaint saying the country's ex-president Oscar Arias sexually assaulted her in 2015. This latest accusation adds to a growing list of women who have pointed fingers at the statesman. The ex-beauty pageant winner, named Yasmin Morales, told a news agency that Arias forced himself on her at his San Jose home after he had contacted her via social media. Pakistan Special Forces took part in a maritime counter-terrorism demonstration on the island of Manora in Karachi as part of a multinational naval exercise, Aman-19. Aman-19 is a series of biennial and naval exercises conducted by the Pakistani Navy since 2007. The exercise is aimed at enhancing military ties among the other regions. At least 1 person has been killed and 100 others injured as 2 trains collided head-on in northwest of Barcelona in Spain. Emergency services identified the victim as a 26-year-old train driver. As a result of the collision, a nearby road was cut off in both directions so that the emergency services could continue working. Family members and fans of Rio de Janeiro football club Flamengo placed flowers at a makeshift memorial outside the club's training center. The training center was gutted in a massive fire that killed at least 10 people the day before yesterday. All 10 of the dead were aged between 14 and 16 and either played for the club or were having trials there. Rio de Janeiro mayor's office said that dormitory destroyed by the blaze was built on land that was not registered for buildings and that the club had no permission to erect the lodgings there. The Democratic Republic of Congo's health minister has said that more than 500 people have died in the country because of Ebola, but thousands more have been saved due to the vaccination drive. The minister said that for the first time, a vaccination program had protected over 76,000 people and prevented thousands of deaths. However, the Spanish wing of aid agency Doctors Without Borders reported on Twitter that there had been a surge in cases since 15th of January. Rwanda, Uganda and South Sudan in the north are now on alert. China firmly opposed Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the northeastern border state of Arunachal Pradesh. India says that Arunachal Pradesh is an inalienable and integral part of India. China has retorted, saying that Indian leadership should refrain from any action that would complicate the boundary question. In 3 separate incidents of liquor poisoning, at least 35 have now lost their lives in India's Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Earlier, 12 deaths were reported in Roorkee city, while 8 deaths in Kushinagar town and Saharanpur city each were recorded after the incident came to light. Mass deaths from drinking toxic, low-quality liquor are common in India. Police say that 13 officials who were found to be guilty have been suspended so far. Australia's second largest city of Sydney faced a massive storm. Thousands of homes were left without power as the storm battered the city for about 60 minutes. Video shared on social media showed huge storm clouds rolling into the city. According to local media, heavy rainfall, damaging winds and lightning struck the city at night for hours after the storm passed. Plains in Australia's central Queensland have been devastated by floods. The flooding has spread to at least 30 kilometres of land. Hundreds of thousands of head of cattle are reported to have died in the flooding, and some farmers have lost up to 80% of their livestock to the floods. A massive blizzard continued to batter Tibet's Shikhatse city. A total of 106 centimeters of snow was accumulated in the city. According to Met Department officials, heavy snow is expected to further hit the Tibet Plateau and various other provinces in northern China. Rescue workers at the Istanbul building collapse site discovered one more body, taking the total death toll to 18. Although Turkey's interior minister said that the rescue workers had made contact with one person stuck in the rubble, the hope for finding survivors underneath the rubble is now fading. The 8-story residential building in the Kartal district collapsed on Wednesday. Now, the Yellow Vest movement in France has inspired street artists in Paris. A group of 19 street artists painted in northeastern Paris a 300-meter-long wall with iconic scenes from the protests. Artists painted protesters wearing high-visibility vests at the foot of the Arc de Triomphe and various other scenes of protesters clashing with riot police. Tens of thousands of people took part in the traditional all-Russian mass ski race. Each year, the event draws the professionals and amateur skiers. The race has been held in Russia annually since 1982 and is aimed at promoting skiing and outdoor sports. Singapore is ushering the Spring Festival with great pomp and fervour. Singapore's Chinatown was adorned with hundreds of traditional Chinese lanterns. Traditional dance performances and dragon dancers also performed at various locations across the city. Mountainous areas in northern and eastern China are under the grip of an intense cold wave. The cold current has created a layer of crystal rime and snow on tree branches in many forests. holidaymakers throng several scenic tourist spots to catch glimpses of the icy landscapes. Devotees in China flocked to the famous temple in Wuhan to mark the birthday of the god of wealth. Braving the pre-dawn cold, young and old brought handfuls of incense sticks to burn in the courtyard of the vast Buddhist temple. Worshippers burned incense and other offerings on a scale much larger than at any other festival in China. Celebrations for the Year of the Pig took place in the Portuguese capital Lisbon as hundreds of people gathered to watch traditional performances by Chinese groups. The Year of the Pig in the Chinese zodiac comes after the Year of the Dog, and the 23,000 members of the Chinese community in Lisbon celebrated the New Year with great pomp and fervor.